at me and screamed. I had 6 faces, each one different but equally horrifying. Some were laughing, others crying, and one simply stared with empty eyes. I had one malformed foot, twisted and wrong, and my cries were a symphony of voices, each one more haunting than the last. As soon as I was born, the shadows in the room moved. They weren't cast by light, they were alive. They gathered around me, bowing as if in worship. My mother said that my eyes opened, all 12 of them, and the room filled with a light so bright it burned her skin. The symbols from the altar appeared on the walls, glowing faintly. I knew then, she told me, that you weren't just a child. You were something else, something the world wasn't ready for. Growing up, I wasn't like other children. My cries drove people mad. My laughter killed plants. When I looked at someone too long, they saw things. Visions of their worst fears, their deepest regrets. The village began to die. Crops rotted in the fields, animals fled, and one by one, the villagers either left or went insane. My mother tried to love me, but I could see the cracks forming. She would sit in the corner of the room, rocking back and forth, muttering prayers to gods that wouldn't answer. But no matter how scared she was, she never left me. One night, strangers came to the village. They wore dark robes and carried symbols that glowed faintly in the dark. They called themselves the Children of the Black Star, and they said I was their savior, the one who would bring their God into the world. My mother tried to protect me, but the cult was relentless. They performed rituals in the forest, summoning creatures that shouldn't exist. One of them had a face made entirely of mouths, all screaming in unison. Another was nothing but a mass of limbs, crawling and writhing toward us. My mother took me to the altar where it all began, hoping to end it. The cult followed, their chants filling the air. The altar began to glow, and the ground split open, revealing something massive and ancient rising from the depths. You were never meant to live, my mother told me, but I can't let them have you. In a final act of love, she plunged a dagger into the altar, breaking the ritual. The creature screamed, its form dissolving into shadows. The cult was pulled into the void, and the forest went silent. The village didn't recover after the events of that night. The remaining villagers who hadn't fled or gone insane began to disappear one by one. Their homes stood abandoned, with doors swinging open as if something had taken them in the night. The whispers never stopped. They grew louder, filling the air with a sense of dread that crushed anyone who stayed too long. I wandered through the empty streets, my 6 faces turning in unison to follow movements that no one